I said I thought it was fair, even though, at times we've been on my club, Saints have been on the end of some of those decisions. We had some fans.
We all think our clubs have been on the wrong end of decisions because we all are biased towards our clubs.
We absolutely are.
So
absolutely.
We all only remember the times things have gone against our clubs.
Correct.
And forget about everything else, either when something might have gone for our club or when the exact same thing has happened elsewhere in the exact same way, sat out in the framework that everyone understands and knows inside the game. We all, the fans don't always know the framework. That's why we've gone through it a bit here. Sorry, you were going to say for some fan views.
No, we've got some fan views in along with the votes. So friend of the show, Karsten, said, I think it's fair. If you're in the right, you get your punishment reduced, and if you're in the wrong, you get an extra. Every club will think twice to appeal and are more likely to accept the given punishment.
And I think this system was brought in because the clubs were consulted before it was brought in, because everyone used to go to a hearing, which was less efficient, really, and it meant people getting fined as well as banned. So this actually is better because you don't get fined if you accept the punishment.
Exactly. It's only going to be cases where it genuinely, where someone's got some video evidence to show that there's been a mistake made. That is the sort of thing that ought to be sort of brought up. Other than that, people should just have to grin and bear it, aren't they?
Well, and something must have come to play in the Luke Gale one, because he was given a grade C penalty notice with a 3-match ban for his offence where he went and picked Johnny Lomax up off the floor, because apparently he was so apologetic they had to pick him up and try and berate him, and then got a grade D charge for the actual kick itself. We'll talk about that when we talk about that game, but he's ended up with a 5-match ban when he could have had 3 matches for the grade C and up to 5 matches for the grade D. So actually it sounds like when he's gone into this hearing, he's had it end up in his favour to a certain extent there. So it does go the other way too. Maybe they've looked at the Luke Gale incident and thought it wasn't as malicious or deliberate as it first appeared with the kicking thing, and maybe. Yeah,
I don't know what he's got for what. Do you know, Mark?
What they've done is they agreed that they would combine it as one hearing about the totality of it and kind of almost put them together because they were, I guess, the same incident anyway.
That's weird to me.
No, that's something that can happen when there's multiple charges that they're up against. If everyone agrees, then it can be heard in that way.
Okay.
Again, for expediency, I guess.
I think it's a little bit weird. It's like getting a parking ticket while you're robbing a bank, and then you agree to roll the 2 charges together. But anyway, it's fine. Rugby League has its own way of doing things, so that's fine.
Yeah. Sean O said, makes perfect sense for there to be something in place to disincentivise appeals that are unlikely to succeed. Otherwise, everyone would just appeal every decision regardless of how clear-cut it is.
Yeah, David Hunter said, don't see these as extra games, but rather no discount for not contesting them. In the NRL, they get a reduction for an early guilty plea. Similar sort of thing, I suppose. Yeah.
We used to have that in operation, David. So for the A's and B charges, you used to be able to enter an early guilty plea, get a game off, no matter what your disciplinary history was.
Yeah.
But then we changed to this system because that system still had people getting fined quite a lot. So yeah. But it is an aspect of it. But really, what Gary Everington says is fair in a way that people should be able to have a fair hearing. I think it's the way that the clubs have maybe approached those hearings have seen to be unreasonable or frivolous rather than them not getting a fair hearing. But, again, Gary Everington, guess what? He's biased because he cares about what's best for Leeds Rhinos.
Of course he does.
Just like I'm biased, just like you're biased, David.
Yeah, absolutely right. Well, one other comment, actually. Tom Andrews wrote in and said, never understood appeals anyway. If you're guilty on a Tuesday, you're probably still guilty on a Wednesday, unless you play for Saints. Thanks, Tom. But you're
just like if you're outstanding in 2021, you're probably going to cry off hurt by week 2 of 2022 because you used to play for Saints.
Yeah, indeed.
I hope that people have found that a little bit illuminating around how the process works, and I think it's good for us to understand the processes, because then, if we're going to have this indignation about the processes, which we've definitely got when we get to the Hull FC match, then it's worth at least understanding them.
Yeah, I agree. It's always difficult. Any sport, disciplinary processes are always a source of contention to fans, particularly ones where judgments are involved. In football, it tends to be 3 games or for a sending off, and that's it. It's kind of fixed unless something really bizarre happens, and then when you've picked up so many bookings, you get a game off. But where you've got judgment involved, there's always going to be views from fans about whether decisions are contentious or not. And, that's the way it is. But I think
between what was careless and what was reckless and what was deliberate and what was malicious and that sort of stuff. Yeah, you're right.
Always tricky.
I think the other thing that does come into play a little bit, though, is people are saying we're going to be losing the opportunity to watch, the best players play against each other. The Leeds against Wigan game missed Brad Dwyer, which, it might have been a more exciting game with Brad Dwyer playing. Leeds might not have dropped off so much in the second half. Similarly, if they'd had Blake Austin against Warrington in the first game, that would have been a big story as well because of him playing for Warrington last year. Levi and Farge missing for Huddersfield against Wigan this week. That gives them, that Huddersfield now won't get to have a true yardstick against a top 4 club that they would have been able to have if they had, 2 of their key spine players in there. And Luke Gale's going to miss 5 games, which means that, unfortunately for Hull FC fans, they only have to miss him for 5 games, not 8 games. And so there's always these things about players not being available that affects the viewing spectacle.
Yeah, I think the biggest issue is actually when you're at a game and someone gets sent off early, because as a paying spectator to that game, then it always impacts on the game. I never like it, to be honest. I much prefer football or rugby. I much prefer to be at a game where it's 11 against 11, quite genuinely. But these things happen. I think the subsequent games, every club is at risk more from injuries than suspension. So you can always lose someone. You better have a good enough squad to be able to cover that sort of thing. And guess what? If your players are getting suspended for doing dickhead things on the pitch like Luke Gale did at the weekend, maybe not do the dickhead things on the pitch. That will be a good way of being able to see the best players.
Yeah. Exactly, and if you want to be given any sort of benefit of the doubt, don't get sin-binned in 4 matches in a row.
Yeah.
James Bentley, or sent off.
Not a good idea. 4 in a row. I bet that. I don't know whether anyone can look that record up, Mark, but it must be a record, surely. Surely.
Yeah, what was it? I think it was 4 times in 9 games last year he was sin-binned, and then obviously.
And when he wasn't being sin-binned. When he wasn't sin-binned, he was injured.
Yeah, or suspended. I don't know, actually. Maybe our friend Neil at the Record Keepers Club will have some information on cards that I can't find sort of myself. Yeah. Okay, anyway.
Talk about some games?
Yeah, let's talk about some games. Super League match reviews time. Round 2 of Super League it was this week, and it started, as it very often does, David, on a Thursday night. And it was a very exciting Thursday night at Warrington. Certainly the start of the game was exciting. We'll get into the rest of it as we go along. But in the end it finished 34 points to 10 to Warrington. It was 12-0 to Warrington at half-time. 8,468 were there, and James Child was the referee. In terms of the team stats, many stats were closer than the scoreline suggests. There was nothing in it for breaks, errors, or tackle success rate. Warrington did have quite a bit more ball, though, courtesy in part to 10 penalties to 4 conceded by Castleford, leading to Wyre making 249 metres and outscoring Cass by those 24 points. Who performed well individually?
So for the winners, Matty Ashton, a try and 206 metres. George Williams, a try, 2 try assists, 7 tackle butts and 130 metres. That's a good start line. Peter Batautier, a try and 118 metres. And Danny Walker, 43 tackles. For the losing side, Joe Westerman, 43 tackles as well and 106 metres and 7 offloads. Paul McShane, 49 tackles, 13 marker tackles, none missed. Beretta Faraimo, 25 metres. None of those on his interception. Daryl Alfert's 1 try and 116 metres. And we got an absolute humongous number of fan views for this one, Mark.
Yeah, we'll start with Carson, who said, how Cass got that shot that fast. They played like FC in the last 2 years. Just call them Castleford FC. When will it be bedsheets time? And is the injury crisis newsworthy already? P.S. That wasn't the kid of Tom and Paige in the car taking the piss, was it?
Pop the Viking said Warrington just too good for a Cass team that lacked ideas. On this form, it's going to be a tough season for Cass, and there are fans, and hopefully it won't be Wire's year.
Brian Davies said, I reckon we could have Cass on that showing, we being Toulouse, for Brian's sake there.
David Hunter says, phew, at least Wire were better this week. Mulhern was great and the halves are improving. Matautia looked impressive, but I'm unsure how much of that was Fanua being unfit. Forward pass calls were a lottery. Been really looking forward to calling a certain Cass player Daryl Oldfarts, but didn't have anything to discuss about him. Pistol League is again on pause, ?
Well, White Pie said, Operation Pistol League stalls again. Cass looked devoid of ideas and creativity, although injuries haven't helped. Wire never got out of second gear, and the contest was no better than an opposed training session. Can someone check on Fatboy Rob? I reckon he'll be getting the emulsion on the bed sheet soon.
Steve Clark says, Cass, the worst enemies. Too much indiscipline. For Noah doesn't look match fit at all. It's early days, but I'm a bit worried based on our first 2 performances. Credit to Warrington, Widdop and Charnley played well, and they could be in for a good year.
Lee Whitnell said, after the brilliant Whizzy Rascal settled my nerves, I was on edge again after the opening exchanges, with Cass dominating in the tackle and Wire finding it difficult to make ground. If Truman's execution had been better, we could have found ourselves in trouble, but we built pressure, moved the Cass defence left and right, kept them guessing, and then took our chances to claim a fantastic win. Williams, my man of the match.
Matt Speakman says, pretty standard game review. Warrington found some fluidity. Cass helped them out with stilted attack and poor discipline. Whizzy Rascal was the highlight indeed. Negative stories again coming Rugby League's way through, though, thanks to Super League's classiest fan base attacking Cass coaches. When are these people going to get to realise supporting a different team doesn't make you an acceptable target for terror? Rugby League should be a family game.
Yeah, well, we've covered that aspect already, haven't we? EFC 78JU said it was a better performance than what we've had at Leeds last week. Not rushing passes or panicking, deciding to just go through the Castleford players to score tries and go to the top of the table for the next few hours or so. It was hilarious before kick-off, as that was clear entertainment with Whizzy Rascal delivering the ball, and it's put here, but I think it's a she, isn't it? Went past twice with the ball. What a night with a win on the board.
Frogmore says, if Cass keep these performances up, they might need to rename something more apt, like HMS Piss the Bed. Hashtag put your bed sheets out for Rob.
Well, your lad at JWPal9 said, sorry, can't help myself. Hashtag piss relegation.
Tom Andrews, who would win a race, Whizzy Rascal or Fanua?
Whizzy Rascal in reverse.
Yeah, maybe Fanua just, but at least Whizzy will keep hold of the ball. Can't wait. Nice one, Tom. Can't wait for 2006.